Hi, my name is Remi Thivierge and I'm with Dynamic Harmony Consultants in Vancouver, Canada. And I'm going to talk with you today about Indigo children, youth, and young adults. I've been working in the field now the helping field for 34 years, and I've worked with a lot of troubled youth and families in difficulty. And things have shifted over time. The types of youth and their families that I've seen have greatly shifted, which is really interesting. It very much fits what people are talking about in terms of indigos. I've got a master's degree in clinical social work, and I'm a clinical member and approved supervisor with the American and Canadian Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. That's the accrediting body in the field. So I've trained a lot of psychologists and social workers and couple and family therapists and so forth. I spent 10 years also working as a family therapist with clients involved with the child protection system. So a lot of violence and physical abuse and sexual abuse and neglect and substance abuse and so on. So I've also spent a couple of years until recently on a part-time basis working with a group of homeless men and using the healing methods that I use with them, and the work was very powerful and very quick. I've also worked with quite a few First Nations people, including some who've gone to residential school with lots of trauma, and the work works great for them. A year ago, I spent some time in India working with a group of untouchables. The untouchables are a group that are seen by other people as being pretty worthless. So nobody will hire them for anything except cleaning toilets and cleaning the streets. And the group that I worked with was a group at the bottom of that, of the untouchables. If you're interested in that, you can read an article about it on my website at www.dynamicharmony.com. So I've also worked with, spent some time working with a group in Sri Lanka after the tsunami. Did a bit of work and assessment of the community there. And I'm on my way to Haiti with a group of people who've taken some of my training, and I and they are going to be doing some healing work there with a group of people who've been very traumatized by the recent earthquakes and hurricanes last year, and etc. Now, I'm going to talk with you about the characteristics of indigos, and then I'll move on and talk with you about some of the difficulties that they go through and my experience with that. I've got a book that's just about to come out called Profound Healing of Indigo Children and Other Sensitive Souls, so you can read about it there. But the questionnaire is also on my website, and I gave you the address earlier, so you can choose to check that out. So the four main characteristics are that they're very intelligent, very intuitive, very sensitive, and very strong-minded. And I'll define each of those. They're very intelligent in the sense that they can pick things up. They understand things really quickly, and they may or may not have a broad intelligence. So, for example, one may be excellent at math, but not so good in languages. And some may have quite poor social skills, but do great at school, or be great in terms of hanging out with other kids, but they don't want to bother putting up with the hassles of school, so they don't bother doing the homework. I understand it already, why should I bother doing it, some of them say. Some of them, their intelligence is interfered with by difficulties that come from things like ADD, attention deficit disorder, ADHD, hyperactivity disorder, and by some things that we eat that are not good for us and throw us off balance, like red dye, for example. Second characteristic is that they're very intuitive. What this means is that they have a knowingness of some things. They understand some things that most people aren't aware of. So, for example, if there's a bit of conflict between two people, the antenna of indigos are quite strong, and they're going to pick that up more easily than others. They have a knowingness about what they need. So they're really clear about, this is the best for me. If you do this and this to me, or make me do this, it's not great for me. So they have some of that wisdom as well. They're very sensitive, which means that they pick up, they're affected by negativity around them much more easily than other people. So if the parents are in conflict, the child is more affected by that than other kids and may become depressed or acted out and so on. Part of the issue is that if the parents, say, separated 10 years ago, and the parents were arguing back and forth, and the child absorbed all that negativity, and the parents come to terms and those issues are resolved a long time ago for them, the child still picks that up, still carries that, and is impacted by it still, and may be still acting it out. The third main characteristic is that indigos are very sensitive. They're sensitive in the sense that they can feel things more than most other people. So that means two things. They're more sensitive energetically, so to touch and so on. They can feel the energy around them, but also they're more sensitive emotionally. So one example of that is there's a school, a community not very far from where I live, where the powers that be in their wisdom, or lack thereof, what they did is they decided to take an old building and convert it into a school. Well, the old building used to be a jail. So there's all this negative energy in the jail from the people who used to be there that impacts the kids. So that's an example of that. Another example is, let's say you live close to a power line. Sensitive kids, like indigos, are more impacted by that. Or if you live close to a highway, or if you live in a negative neighborhood, sensitive kids are more affected and they're more likely to act out because of all those things. So that's a crucial piece. So if your child is acting out, you need to assess not just your child, but also the context. What's going on for them? Another example of that is there's an indigo that I saw with her mother, and she came, when she came home periodically, she was aggressive towards her mother. When I assessed the situation fairly broadly, what happened is that that one day I asked questions, and the day before I saw her, she had seen one child bullying another. She was affected by that negativity. She picked up that negative energy in her field, the aggressive energy, and she just acted it out towards her mother. It's the very same story as the father is pushed around at work by the boss, comes home, takes it on his wife takes it out on the kid, and so on. It's the same thing. What this is called is secondary trauma. So we're affected by the negativity of people around us. So if a child sees one child being negatively impacted by another, being traumatized because they're being attacked, the indigo is more likely to be impacted by that and then acted out again in turn. So that's secondary trauma. The third piece is they're very strong-minded. So what that means is they won't put up with stuff that doesn't feel right for them. Lots of different examples I could give you about that. One of them is they can say, well, I'm not going to do three math questions. That's too stupid. I already know the answers. I'm prepared to do one, and I'm not going to do the others. If the teacher doesn't like it, too bad. So that's an example of that. Another one is if let's say a step-parent, say a male, sees that the mother is not handling the child in the way that he thinks would be appropriate, she's not firm enough, step-parent comes in, and he works towards putting the child in line. I'm going to set you straight, this is what you do, and that's all there is to it. So takes an authoritarian approach. The indigo child doesn't put up with that kind of thing. I don't want you to talk to me like that. And so then the child is more likely to act out or withdraw, run away, and so on. More so than other kids who are more likely to just put up with the situation, and that's all. So they're very strong-minded in that way. Another one is that if the parent is kind of laid back and takes it easy and doesn't set strong limits, the child will just bulldoze them. I'll do whatever I want. This is what I think is right, and if you don't like it, too bad. So what's needed is what's called authoritative parenting, a combination of caring and strength. So the child has some limits and lots of room to move as well.